From 2011 to 2013, U.S. Marines operated unmanned K-MAX helicopters in Afghanistan. These experimental drones conducted more than 1,000 sorties, resupplying Marine units in remote areas and keeping them safe from ambushes and IEDs. As America shifts its focus east, the rugged mountains of Afghanistan give way to the vast blue of the Pacific Ocean. In the same way, just as the K-MAX was a response to IEDs, autonomous drones are seen as a key solution to the contested logistics of a Pacific conflict scenario. But why drones? Well, there are three main reasons. First, the Pacific Ocean is primarily an aerial and maritime theater. Unlike the average Tesla on the road, air and sea drones face far fewer obstacles and less variables, making autonomous navigation way more feasible with current technologies. Second, the sheer size of the Pacific theater is orders of magnitude larger than that of Iraq or Afghanistan. And the size and geography of a theater are crucial aspects of warfare, as they are hard to understand. Quite on point with this topic, this video's sponsor, Conflict of Nations, is an online video game that gives you a first-hand view of how critical geography and resources are for any commander. Units in this game map move around in real time, and depending on their speed and capabilities, plus other adversaries' actions, they can take hours to move through the map. This allows one to understand the fine consequences of when, how, and where to move troops. The thing is, you won't be facing an AI, but up to 128 real players who can become your best allies or you can battle against, both on PC and on your smartphone. Get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription by clicking our sponsored link. From China's coast to the first island chain, it spans for about 1.3 million square miles, around 8 times the size of Iraq. But if we extend it to the second island chain, this covers about 3.4 million square miles, 16 times Afghanistan, or about the total size of the whole United States. In America's wars in the Middle East, the U.S. trucked about 80% of its intra-theater supplies, and civilian trucks played a major role in moving cargo from main secure ports and airports to the theater's main logistical hubs. But in a theater this large, how can supplies even be moved efficiently and against a technologically advanced adversary? And now we come to the third point. Unlike in Iraq or Afghanistan, a Pacific conflict would likely involve a peer adversary that would contest U.S. supply lines. In the last 3 decades of wars, the American military relied on allied countries to land and store cargo in a handful of city-sized logistical hubs very close to the battlefront, yet safe from enemy attacks. The so-called Iron Mountains. These Iron Mountains, like Ad Dammam and Al Jubail seaports during Desert Storm, and Kuwait City during Iraq Freedom, would be prime targets for long-range missiles in a Pacific war. To adapt to the new scenario, the U.S. military is working on distributing its forces and its logistical network over the whole theater rather than concentrating them, with the goal to not have too many eggs in one logistical basket. This is pretty much exemplified by the Marines' Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations, part of their Force Design 2030 modernization strategy. In simple terms, this concept involves the use of small but highly mobile, heavily armed forces, constantly positioned on strategic islands and choke points across the Indo-Pacific region. These stand-in forces would set up partially unmanned sensors and weapons capable of covering areas as large as the Netherlands and able to interoperate with the systems of other ships, airplanes, and even those of other allied countries' forces in the area, like the Japanese and the Australians. This allows for 3 main benefits: multiple centers of gravity, better situational awareness, and lastly, the capability to strike from multiple directions, providing multiple options for the commanders. This strategy, however, heavily relies on logistics. Troops without supplies are not dispersed, but just divided. Currently, to support dispersed stand-in forces on strategic points across the Indo-Pacific, the U.S. Marines rely on a wide fleet of platforms. From the air with the CH-53 or the MV-22, and from the sea with crafts like the LCAC or the to-be-procured medium landing ship, MLS. These platforms are designed to carry everything that units need to bring and sustain the fight on shore. But their size and their bulky cargo make them prime targets for an enemy, especially if they have to get closer to the shore and therefore in range of the enemy anti-ship systems. Also, this is not only risky for the suppliers, but also for the supplied. Having such huge ships resupplying stand-in forces can, in fact, potentially reveal their position to enemy sensors. And this is where drones come into play. Autonomous drones can sustain smaller units spread across a wide theater, while allowing more resistant and covert logistics, focusing on redundancy and potentially expendability. Among the many platforms, the Autonomous Low-Profile Vessel, or ALPV, combines these key characteristics. Unlike other platforms, this type of craft has been thoroughly tested in real-world scenarios for almost 2 decades. Not by the military, but by South American cartels. And the Marines have been inspired by this. These semi-submersible vessels are based on Narco submarines, used to smuggle some 30% of cocaine from South America to the United States. Narcos build their subs in makeshift shipyards inside the mangrove forests of Colombia. And despite this and the rudimentary materials used, like wood for the frame, fiberglass for the hull, and refurbished engines, these ships are very effective at eluding US Coast Guard controls. In fact, only 10 to 15% of these subs get intercepted at all, bypassing one of the most controlled maritime borders in the world. This is not because of some fancy design, but simply because the majority of the hull sits below the waterline. From a ship or a helicopter, that's about the same footprint as a big surfboard. Furthermore, water acts like a blanket, masking the ship's thermal and radio signatures so that even radar and fancy ISR cameras aren't very effective at countering them. Ones made in a proper shipyard facility with a metal hull and modern propulsion and navigation systems could cost around a few million US dollars. There's no publicly available price for these, but we do know that the Marines asked Congress for about $6 million US dollars for developing the program. With a few $1 million price tag, it'd be possible to buy dozens of these vessels for the estimated cost of one medium landing ship. Of course, these ships work in different roles, with one carrying troops and large equipment like tanks on shore, and the other being a much smaller craft. But this is to show how much capability can be bought for the price of one ship that is considered affordable by the service. These two ships could integrate each other's roles, freeing up manned platforms for higher value missions. 2 prototypes have been launched and are now being tested. Designed by Leidos, these vessels are reported to be able to move more than 5 tons over 2,000 nautical miles. From publicly available pictures, it seems that these ships mount commercial navigation systems, like off-the-shelf outdoor cameras, Furuno radars, and what looks like a Starlink antenna dish for SATCOM. It looks like these are also fitted with removable cargo hatches that span for the majority of its length. This is potentially done to increase access to the payload. In fact, their cargo bay was specifically designed to fit a minimum of 2 naval strike missiles, or 2 HIMARS rockets. For comparison, the CH-53K can transport 1 NSM inside its cabin at a 110 nautical mile radius. This platform could be developed into a family of drones, doubling its payload and uses. Narcos have been able to move up to 10 tons worth of cargo with their subs. A similar, more capable version for the Marines could carry even more than 2 missiles at a time, more fuel, more ammo, and food, or even a combination of all of these. If equipped with a raisable bow and a front ramp, these drones could even carry small vehicles like the Polaris and use these to unload cargo in a matter of minutes. Current technology makes marine drones capable of traveling autonomously over long distances. In 2024, the company that built the 2 ALPV prototypes participated in a US Navy exercise, testing the Overload Program fleet's autonomous navigation from California to Australia. These drones have also been proven to be autonomous in the sense that they don't need a crew to perform maintenance or repairs. In fact, these are designed to be more like maintenance resistant and able to operate for at least a month at a time without humans in the loop. For example, Engines mount redundant systems like filters and generators, making it capable of running for 720 hours straight without human intervention. In a conflict, these unmanned platforms could revolutionize logistics. But how? Logistics works very similarly to a circulatory system. The arteries are the intertheater lines connecting home bases and forts with the main allied countries and overseas territories. The veins are the main hub intertheater lines, stemming from the theater logistical hubs to the advanced main operation bases. And finally, the capillaries connect these hubs to the various dispersed units directly involved in combat operations. And in this last leg is where drones can be most effectively used. Typically, the Marines can carry everything they need for a fight on their large amphibious warships in what is called a Marine Expeditionary Unit. These ships can carry the smaller ship-to-shore connectors, like the LCACs and the LCUs, which can then move large numbers of troops, equipment, and supplies to the shore. However, bringing these ships close to the landing site creates risk in the day and age of long-range missiles. Instead, deploying drones from larger vessels further out at sea minimizes the risk to resupply troops. Drones could be deployed far at sea from larger vessels, like the Expeditionary Sea Base, but also any vessel with a crane, a floatable dock, or a reinforced roll-on, roll-off ramp could do the job. Enemy sensors would have a hard time in tracing supply lines of almost fully submerged drones, hiding in their starting and final destination, and adding a layer of difficulty in disrupting them. The US Army and Marines have already tested such capability during Project Convergence Capstone 4. During the operations, Marines supplied a littoral regiment with smaller drones, utilizing kinetic capabilities like anti-aerial systems and non-kinetic capabilities like electronic warfare and jamming. It was possible to open a multi-domain corridor for the drones. Not only their ability to hardly be detected, but also the capability to loiter in position were crucial in minimizing the preparations required. These drones integrate smoothly with larger manned platforms. For instance, during Exercise Integrated Battle Program in 2023, the USS Gabriel Giffords, an Independence-class warship, commanded 4 large USVs from its Aegis combat system. With minimal hardware modifications, these unmanned vessels can function very similarly to a maritime version of the Air Force's Loyal Wingman concept. In a combat scenario, these unmanned vessels can carry supplies and sensors, extending the range and intelligence gathering capabilities of manned ships. Autonomous vehicles can free up higher-value vessels from simpler tasks, allowing them more optionality. The war in Ukraine can give us a useful example on the utility of drones in a conflict. On the one hand, it shows how small surface platforms can be used to sink high-value platforms and force the Russian Black Sea Fleet out of its home port. Mainly thanks to very fast and small drones, sitting very low in the water, making them very hard to detect. On the other hand, this conflict shows the importance of supplies. Ukraine has been able to resist and fight against Russia thanks to NATO supplies flowing in from its land borders with Poland and Romania. Applying this to an invasion of Taiwan, how could it be possible to supply the island without land borders? In this case, drones could be very useful in providing a lifeline of covert logistics that could evade an embargo of the island. Logistical lines could then covertly support Taiwan, also in a scenario where American forces wouldn't want to show their direct support or be directly involved in the defense of the island. All in all, drones can give commanders versatility and a wide range of options. A variety of drones are being tested and evaluated to be used as force multipliers and logistic connectors in a potential conflict in the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific theater geography and the current technological limitations make it more efficient to use drones in covert logistical roles, especially to carry out supplies over contested environments, or even integrating armaments and sensors of manned ships. The scenario is constantly evolving, and new capabilities are being developed everywhere in the world. However, it looks like drones are making their way into modern warfighting, and are set to add more options for the commanders. If you want to try out by yourself how difficult logistics is, consider checking out the Conflict of Nations deal, and click the link to get 1 month of premium subscription and 13,000 gold for free. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you at the next one. Ciao.